Hello friends, welcome to Storytime with Teacher Julian. Today's book, I'm going to have a reread. Yep, it's Growing Trees. We're going to read this one again. It was written by Judith Bauer Stamper and illustrated by Wesley Lowe. So, this book right here, do you remember anything about this book from our previous read? Raise your hand if you can think of something we talked about or something you remember from this book. Raise your hand. There you go. Yes, this book is about a little girl buying a tree and 3 people who take care of trees besides our friend. Let's get started. Growing trees. There's our friend right there. This is a picture of my tree and me. We've been growing up together for a whole year. It all began last summer. I went to visit a national forest with my mom and dad. A forest is a great place to learn about trees. There are trees as far as you can see. A lot of different kinds of trees. We took a hike with a forester, an expert on taking care of trees in the wild. The forester showed us small young trees and big old trees that were like towering giants. Then he explained the life cycle of a tree. It all starts out with a seed. In the spring, the warm sun makes the seed germinate, or begins to grow. The seed sprouts a small root that grows down into the ground, and the root absorbs water and minerals from the soil. Remember? Stinky right there. The root comes down, and then as the root keeps on going down, it starts going up. Pretty cool. Next, a small stem pushes up out of the ground and grows 2 tiny seed leaves. The leaves use sunlight to give the tree energy to grow. The new growth, called a shoot, appears at the tip of the stem. Larger leaves grow from the shoot. The seedling is on its way to becoming a tree. That's how it is like that. The young tree keeps growing if it gets enough water and sunlight to survive. In its next year of life, the tree grows buds that may turn into leaves. Soon, the tree has branches, a woody trunk, bark, and lots of leaves. Each year, the tree grows taller, its trunk gets wider. The forester can tell how old a tree is by counting its rings. A tree trunk has 1 ring for each year that it has been alive. This tree was more than 100 years old. A forester can also find out how old a living tree is by using a tree borer, a tool that takes out a small part of the tree without hurting it. They would put this tool in here and go this way towards the center, and then they would be able to tell on each ring till they count to 100. The forester. And look, I'm wearing my Forest Ranger badge today that I got at Muir Woods. I talked with the forester when I was over there. After our trip to the forest, I wanted to grow a tree of my own. Daddy took me to a nursery where you can buy flowers, shrubs, and trees. A nursery has trees that have been grown big enough to transplant or plant in a new place. The nursery worker showed me trees that have flowers in the spring and fruit in the summer. We looked at trees with soft leaves and trees with pine needles. I see the nursery worker has all these different trees in here. This tree right here, this is a pine tree. And you can see it has different kind of leaves on it. It has pine needles, little pokey like leaf things, but they're little pokey ones. And the other ones have big flat leaves like our friend's tree. It has regular softer leaves. I chose a maple tree. My tree was already more than 4 feet high, just a little bit taller than I am. The nursery worker helped us choose a shovel to plant the tree. She recommended organic fertilizer to feed the tree as it grew. Then she went over the instructions on how to plant my tree. When you have the right tools, it makes the job easier. And she's an expert on planting trees. So she says a shovel. And organic fertilizer is like dirt, but that has a lot of minerals and nutrients, like food for the tree. I picked out a place in our backyard where the tree would have lots of sunlight and lots of room to grow. Sounds like a good idea, right? It's a big tree. Then Dad and I dug a hole with a shovel. The hole was as deep as the tree's root ball and about 3 times as wide. So let me show you. This right here is what they call, look at the shape. It's like a ball. That is where all the roots are. That's what sucks in all the water and nutrients from right there. So they made the hole deep enough for it to go into and wide. So it has a lot of room to expand. We carefully lowered the tree into the hole. We loosened the burlap bag around the roots. Look, there's the root ball. Next, we filled in soil around the tree. I added organic fertilizer to the soil and sprinkled mulch on top. Then I gave my tree a nice drink of water. Putting the tree in the ground, putting the dirt, the fertilizer, and like some loose crumbly stuff on top. That's the mulch. It's healthy food for the tree. Dad asked an arborist to check the other trees in our yard. An arborist is like a doctor for trees. She pruned the branches of our big trees with pruning shears. It looks like big scissors, but it's long arms with a little scissor on top. She checked the trees for signs of disease. She also listened for bugs by using a stethoscope. She looked like a doctor. One of our oldest trees had been damaged in a storm. The arborist used a handsaw and a chainsaw to cut off 2 broken limbs using special tools. She's using pruning shears and the stethoscope like a doctor would. I asked the arborist to check my tree. She said it was doing just fine. She added a stake to help it grow up straight. Remember what a stake does? Yeah, in case if it's windy, it won't knock it over. It'll help it grow up nice and straight. And those are the 2 stakes right there. And a little string in the middle. When the weather turned cold, my tree's green leaves turned bright red. Then they twirled down to the ground. I see a few of them on their way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them look like they're falling right now. Can you count any more? The next spring, my tree grew buds that turned into leaves. Over the summer, it grew branches with more leaves. Its trunk grew thicker. And it says a close-up of red maple branch with buds on in the spring. That's the close-up. And that's what it looks like on the tree. This is a leaf from my red maple tree. It has 3 lobes that have saw-toothed edges. The bark is dark gray and rough with little ridges. So look at our leaf. There's 1, 2, 3 lobes on it, but look at how it looks like a saw, like it's jagged. It's jagged all the way around. And then there's the stem that goes attached to the tree. And then the tree bark is rough. It protects the inside of the tree. All summer I watered my tree and checked for insects. It just kept growing. The arborist said that my tree could grow 60 feet high. That's taller than my house. Look at my tree now. It's much taller than I am. If I take good care of it, it will be around for a long, long time. A tree is a great friend to grow up with. Look at our friend. Look how tall she is, and look how tall the tree is now. Remember when she first planted it? Remember in the store? It was only barely a little bit taller than she is. And also this part goes in the ground, so it's actually shorter. But now look. Way taller. You can plant a tree too. Which tree would you choose? We showed these last time, so let's see. We have an oak tree, a palm tree, a pine tree, a sweet cherry, Japanese maple, and a weeping willow. So you get to choose one. Which one would you choose? If you want the oak tree, raise your hand. Okay, if you want the palm tree, raise your hand. The pine tree, raise your hand. The weeping willow, raise your hand. Japanese maple, raise your hand. And the sweet cherry, raise your hand. Which one did you choose? Tell a family member. They all have different things that set them apart. The end. That's the back of our book. It says here, growing trees. How does a seed become a towering tree? How indeed could that possibly be? Find out everything you need to know to grow a large, leafy, and lifelong friend. Growing trees. So friends, we're going to talk a little bit about the places that some of these workers work. So the arborist will work around your home. Let's see, where's our arborist? There she is. They work a lot around people's houses, making sure that the trees are safe around your house, that the trees don't block cars going down the street. Like sometimes their branches might hang down a little low. So they'll make sure that the power lines and the telephone lines are all clear, that the branches don't stick out and will hit trucks or people as they walk by, that on the bottom part where the roots are, that they don't grow out of the sidewalk and make people trip. Those are things that arborists will do, and they'll work around those places, around houses, streets, things like that. We also saw that the nursery worker, that she's working, it looks like in a store. Sometimes it's like they'll have a nursery section when you go to Walmart or Target or Home Depot. Other places they'll have a specific nursery, a place for you to go that has a lot of trees and plants. So when you go to a place like that, they're going to have all these different tools there, and she's going to give you instructions. They work inside and outside. So you can see in here, this is inside of a building with all the tools, but all the trees are growing outside. And you can see up here on top, sometimes it has a cover over it, just so they can control how much light comes in. So they work inside and outside. Last is our friend the forester. And there's his setting. That's where the foresters will work, in the forest. Sometimes they'll have an office that they work in too, because they use science to figure out how the trees are, how what they call the undergrowth is, things on the floor, to make sure that there's no sick trees out there, where they might have to call an arborist out there in the middle of the forest to help cut down some of the trees. But that's where a forester will work, in the forest. Now sometimes a forest is ran by, it's a national forest, which means that it's owned by people like you and me, and it's for all of us to use. And sometimes they have a private area called a private forest, and they'll have a forester work there too, because it's important to take care of all forests and all the trees. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed our book for its second reading, and I will see you next time. Bye.